Welcome to the Foil Life Podcast, where we talk about foiling and the lifestyles of those who enjoy these great sports. Hey, man. Hey, thanks for joining us.
Yeah, no worries. Thanks for having me, Luke.
We're going to deep dive into Parowing Town tonight. I think that's going to be quite fun.
Yes. I've been frothing on the parowing very much so I'm happy to talk about parowing for as long as you want me to.
That's sweet. Foil rat, where did that come out of?
Yeah, foil rat. I think foil rat, when I was thinking about just getting a handle for Instagram or something like that, it was like, how do I kind of approach foiling in general? How do I, want to be thinking about this sport? And I kind of see myself as a little bit of a lab rat. So that's where it came from, thinking about just running experiments and like trying new things and not really having any kind of preconceived idea of what's gonna feel good or be good. I think foiling taught me a lot since the beginning. I looked at winging the first time and I'm like, oh my God, that's grim. I'm never gonna do it. And then a couple months later, I was like all into winging, right? So I think foil rat comes from that idea of just experimenting and just not saying no to anything, basically.
Was this your first interaction with wind sports, or?
Yeah, so like my background with wind sports, my first wind sport was kite foiling. When I was younger, like in my teens, I kind of used to wakeboard and really enjoyed that. And I learned how to kite surf back in Brazil, but not really in a I was a weekend kind of kite surfer. I went to a location where kite surfing was good. I'd do it for a little while, then be like 3 months without doing it. But then when I went to uni, I studied industrial design, and I got more into products, and I really loved everything involved in kite surfing. And that's when kite surfing became a thing for me. I developed like a board and a harness for my thesis. I was heavily into it. Really into like the wake style and all that stuff, and was watching all the videos, Space Monkeys and Lou Wayman doing like these amazing things on nice. A 2-line kite. And I was like, oh my God. Cause like that crossover of wakeboarding into kite surfing. And then when I moved to Australia, that's when I saw foiling for the first time. There's a bunch of guys that do a lot of racing here with those big kites and doing 50 Ks on the water. And I'm like, oh my God. But I never liked it. I thought it was a kind of an old person sport in a way. And I'm like, I'll get into it when I break my knees or, when I'm old or whatever. And then one of our friends here, he's a professional kite surfer. He's like the Park League champion. I don't know if you know him, you and Jaspin, but he's the kite designer for Nash now, and he has family who lives here, and he lives in the gorge now. And he comes, down every summer. And one of the summers he was kite foiling, and I'm like, dude, what are you doing? Like, you're a hardcore wake style rider. What are you doing on a foil? And he's like, no, it's great. Like, you should try it. So I tried it, and that summer I learned how to kite foil, and I never touched a twin tip after that. I had 2 sessions on a twin tip after that day. And so I bit my tongue. Yeah, I bit my tongue big time on that one. And then spent kind of like a year just kite foiling. And it took me from this very small part of the bay that we used to kite surf in, like this flat water spot near the pier that it was cool to do, the tricks, and was a good little spot for that. And then when I got on the foil, I got out of that marina and just started exploring the bay, doing longer runs. And I was like, oh my God, like there's a lot here to be had. So I started surfing little waves on a kite and loving that. And then I saw winging, and again, took the same judgment approach. And I was like, dude, and this was you and coming back again the next year with some wings. I'm like, God, that's grim, man. What are you doing? And I would just watch people holding the wings and just standing on boards. I'm like, I'm never going to do that. And then I bit my tongue again and started winging. And that's all I did for the next year. So got really into winging. Winging is awesome. Winging is absolutely awesome. And for me here in the Bay, it was the best way for me to surf. Like I really always looked at prone foilers and I'm like, oh my God, that's the ultimate, right? Like riding a wave on a foil with nothing really, like just that purity and, not having a wing, not having a kite, nothing to propel you was really attractive to me. So I found the wing the best means for me to do that on downwind runs. So once I started winging, the first thing that I wanted to do was go out in the bay and just flag the wing and just try to surf as much as I could. So that's kind of like how I got introduced to downwinding. And then after that, I got into prone, and I think at that time, it was kind of like COVID during that time. And personally, I was going through a lot of stuff, and I made a commitment to myself that I knew what would bring me happiness would just to be in the water every day. I just wanted to be in the water every day. And I think foiling allows you to do that. If it's not windy, we would go out and do dock starts. If it was windy, we'd be on a kite or on a wing. If there's no wind, we would go down the coast and prone and try to catch some waves. But then always trying to do what I wanted to do closer to home, which is in Melbourne, in a bay. That's when I was exposed to downwinding. And I'm like, oh my God, now I can surf without a wing because, you know how it is going downwind with a wing. It gets in the way, and it's a great way to get into the sport. But if you want that purity, like I was just trying to get as close as I could to proning, downwinding gave me that. And then I'm like, all right, I'm committed. I'm going to learn how to downwind. So I went through the whole process of learning how to paddle. Going through that is a mission on its own. And
I've heard it's pretty tough, eh?
It is. And it's like I had no paddling experience from my past sports, like apart from being on a little SUP on a holiday, which is not really what you want. So for me, like I got out on the board the first day and I was literally paddling in circles. And I'm like, what is this? I put the foil on wrong. What is this?
Too.
Like, why?
Me too.
Why is this not going straight? So then you go online and you're like, okay, J strokes. Okay, cool. So I had to learn everything from scratch. But I'm happy I did. And I think it's a great skill to have. But it takes a long time for you to be confident. Like it took me at least 6 to 8 months to go out in the water and not think about, am I going to get on foil? Like with the foil that I have, with the wind, like you can get up, but you're on a huge foil, and then the performance is not what I wanted in my head. I wanted to surf, and, being on a 1200, a 1400 square meter foil wasn't really what I wanted, but those were the foils that would get me up. So it took me a long time to get to the point where I'm like not thinking about paddle ups anymore and thinking about performance. So I did that for, I don't know, another year or so. And that's when I had a little experience with a trainer kite. I had my son's trainer kite in my van, and we were just mucking around at Brighton Beach one day. And I'm like, I'm just going to try to put this little trainer kite up and see what happens. And then I got on my downwinder board and I was just trying to get up on it. And it's a double skin kind of trainer kite. So like once it touched the water, like it was just horrible and heavy and wouldn't fly. But that was my first little hint of parowinging, like just playing around with my son's trainer kite. And I really didn't pay too much attention to it, but it was something that like, it could be something. And then maybe like 4 months later, I saw the pocket wings. And I don't know if you know the pocket wings, but they were like a system that had 2 lines and 2 pulleys. So you kind of like...
Yeah, I do remember that. Yeah.
So I
saw it at AWSI last year.
Yeah, yeah. So when I saw the pocket wing, I'm like, oh my God, look, there it is. Like that's the thing, like, and when I started looking into it a little bit more, I noticed that it was more for people to just get up and then go downwinding, but it didn't have that upwind ability. So I was like, and it's funny how it was like 5% off of what I had in my mind, and I completely dismissed it, and I should have tried it, but not too long after that, I think another 6 months or whatever, that's when I saw the BRMs and what Greg developed. And I saw some videos of the crew in Maui, like going upwind. And then when I saw someone lean on a parowing, and I could see that, like, I'm like, he's doing it. He's going upwind. So it was crazy. I was obsessed with it, and I spent probably like 2 hours just looking into it online, and then got some videos, and I couldn't believe that they were doing it. And I was like trying to understand how much upwind, are they going upwind? Are they not? And then I saw them catching waves, and then all of a sudden I saw them depower it and like get rid of it. And my head just blew up. I'm like, oh, what is that? And it was almost like everything that I wanted, like in this little package that made sense. It looked good. It had the deparowing. It looked familiar because it was kind of like a kite. It had the upwind and the deparowing ability, so you could surf without having the wind. Like everything came together. And then I literally went online and bought one within like that 2 hours that I was searching. I went on the BRM website and just got my first parowing.
Oh, sick. Wow. So that was your first experience. It is incredibly fun. And
it's good.
Like Enzis. Thanks a lot for Enzis for sending one out for testing. We've been riding that one out here in Mexico, and it took me a little bit of time to get used to it because I hadn't ridden. I'm not a kiter, so I can snow kite and stuff, but it took a little bit of an adaptation period, which I think it is for all of us. But what a fun little pastime to I would climb up 2 kilometers, and then my foil wasn't as conducive, and we're going to get into foils after, as for pure riding. Like I would need a bit of power, right? And the swell is a bit smaller, but super fun little thing. Stow it away and stuff. I just kind of pull it in. I don't have a pouch for it or anything. Yep. But so you
what was
started
the hardest thing? What was the hardest thing initially when you first touched it? Like, I always like to ask that because when people see it and they don't have a kiting background, I feel like the kite or the parowing control doesn't come instinctively. You kind of feel like you have to understand that you have to have a little bit of pressure on the reel lines, on the front lines, for it to actually be stable and perform. So how did you find that first initial crack?
I probably have maybe 4 hours on a big kite and about, I don't know, a couple winters snow kiting with a 1.7 or a 2-meter trainer. So I have that, but I wasn't expecting the vertical up and down. So like that threw me off. And then as soon as I did up and down, it's okay. So then here's where I have to put my hand, right? And then once you figure that out, you're like, oh, I steer it like a joystick. Oh, okay. That's not bad. And then my first session, I was just too tight with my whole upper body, right? Like I was just too locked in, which then obviously fatigued muscles and I was exhausted and sore. But as I got better at it, then there were just little things that you would intuitively kind of pick up. Oh, this makes sense. Oh, like maybe when it's nuking out, what I would do is I would just pull the release, get on my board, pull it towards me, like all these little things that you learn. And then figuring out the first harness and how do I hook in and where do I put my line, and all that was super fun.
Yeah, it's awesome. I love that beginning phase of any sport where you see the potential, you see what it could be, and you're trying to figure it out. And nobody knows. I love, like, I've never been part of a sport that we're actually seeing it in the inception. And surely there are people that did this like 5 years ago, and there's photos coming up of all these kind of parowings back in the day. But I think now, in like end of 2024, start of 25, is where parowing is a thing. Like it's a thing now. It's not going to go away. There's enough momentum that it's going to become something. And to be part of something that's really starting, and there's no way to do it. There's no right way to do it. I'm loving that. It's the best thing about it for me.
And you can do multiple things. So based on where you're at, I sometimes didn't feel like pumping up my wing. So I would just go for a kite cruise with it, right? Like I would go cruise, kite, and I would keep myself hooked into it. And then I would go downwind like you would in a kite, like go across the window and stuff and do that. And that was fun. And then zip back up upwind. And other days when the swell was bigger, you unhook and you stow it. So like there's so many different applications that are incredibly fun. And it is just starting. Like we're getting to see these V1s. Like
Yeah.
I'm curious, and they're good. Like they're stable, they're strong. Like I was concerned about taking it in 25 some knots because
Yeah.
you're looking at that and you're like, okay, all right, we're doing it.
You're strapping on to, what feels like a 2-line kite, really, because that thing is kind of
Exactly.
like on and off. And
Yeah.
it is like once you put it up in the sky, it's like, okay, here we go. And it doesn't stop. It's on, and there's no depower like a kite that you can just shoot out. And all right, it's at 12, it's fine. No, at 12, it's pulling you in
It's
25 knots. Yeah.
Yeah. But I found, so for the Enzis model, they do have that safety release that comes right into the center of the bar, which So what I found the easiest way was just to pull the safety. The kite would sit there, or the wing would sit there. I would get on my board, pull it towards me, pop it up, and boom, I would be going. So that alleviated that initial pull concern.
Yeah. And you'd be on your board already.
Exactly, which I think a lot of them, so that wasn't a big deal at all. And everything else, I think you just need to put in some time and figure out what angles to attack the wind on. And I think everything else just comes. But for the three of them, like you've ridden the Flow, you've ridden BRM, you've ridden the Enzis. Are there any others that we don't know of that you've gotten to try?
Not really, apart from that little trainer kite.
Okay.
But yeah, I want to try to get my hands on everything that's coming out. There's, Tacoon's coming out with one, 777 has one. There's another brand that came out with a double skin version of it, which has a very intricate bar that has a little bit of a depower with pulleys. And I'm not quite sure the name of the brand, but they're all kind of coming out with these new concepts, and you can see how they're kind of going into different places where they will perform and outperform each other in. But those are the three that I have ridden: BRM, Flow, and Enzis, the Roger.
Overall experiences with all of them fairly positive. Like all three companies have put in so much work. I think we can kind of say that they've done a great job entering the market.
Oh, look, absolutely. And look, they will all have things that they do better than like other parawings, and they outperform each other in different areas. But you just have to give so much props to these companies that are putting so much money, time, and launching things so quickly. Like from the first parawing that came out, that was the BRM, and I think it was around late last year, and it kind of got the whole industry off guard. Everybody, when they saw that, they're like, oh God, okay, we need to do one, because he did something that I think we were so close. It was there. It was kind of in front of everyone's face already, but he put it into a package and posted these videos that people could see how the whole thing could work with the upwind, with the stowing, riding a small board, all those things just opened up all of these foilers. They're like, oh my God, we need to get into it. But then, Flow, I think, was kind of like the second one launching their stuff, and they come from a paragliding background. So they have years of R&D in that space, and they did a different approach. And then Enzis just kind of putting a lot of R&D and kind of changing their whole year of development. And I heard in one of their podcasts, I think it was with you, or was it with you? I can't remember. But they were saying we didn't have the parowing in the plan.
Yeah, Patrick. Yeah.
Yeah. And I watched that, and I'm like, that's what we need, right? So huge props for all those companies. All the parawings work. And yeah, for sure. We just need companies to think like that, and to want to put money into these new things. I think that's why foiling is so great. So much to explore, and that willingness to try. Yeah, hats off to all of those companies.
Now, getting into the basics of, let's say, board choice and foil choice, because currently right now, I'm riding a 70-liter KT from 23, and it's 5 foot long, and I have a 1230 surf foil from North, and it works. I just need a bit more power to get going. But I did try a board that was a bit narrower and a bit longer, and obviously you do get a bit more propulsion, and it does help you get going a little bit. But my next question, which is what I've been talking to everybody about, I'm going to sell my 1230 surf foil because I primarily ride an 830 or smaller now. What do I get in, let's say, the North lineup for this new downwind trend. Like I'm still looking into it. I think they have a downwind 900 that I'm going to look at, but I didn't know how big to go. And I think everybody is starting to ask those same questions.
Yeah, look, I think gear is a tough one to talk about because it involves so much. It involves like what winds are you going to go out on?
All
What
that
type
stuff,
of parowing? Yeah, like what kind of parowing do you want to do? Do you want to do downwinding? Do you just want to zip around and do tacks and get technical with it, you know, and like be more of a winger that you go out and you just do a session in the same spot? Do you want to ride waves? And that's a different thing as well. So I think in general, what I tell everyone is like, when I learn, I just put my biggest board and my biggest wing, my biggest foil, right? And I just want to get up. If you're not up, you're not experiencing the sport. So you can't really start understanding what's working or not. So having a big board is good, but I think you can almost get away by getting a demo at a shop and having those 3 sessions, which is really all you need, those 3 initial sessions on a big board to get used to it, very much like winging, and you kind of outgrow those boards pretty quickly. When you think about what is more of a performance style board, I think having something that's 1-to-1 weight to volume ratio is really good. So I'm like 80 kilos with wetsuits and stuff. I'm counting 85. So I have an 85 liter board that you get up on pretty much any wind right now. And that's working really well. I think a 60 liter board is where I want to get to. So I'll just give the specs. The 85 liter board is a 510 by 18 wide. And so it's a very narrow board. So it tracks really well in the water, and it's a little bit of a longer board. So that helps as well. And at 85 liters, even being narrow, you can balance on it. So I think it's a great kind of way to think about it. 1-to-1 ratio, narrow and long, that'll work. And then if you want to get a little bit more performance out of it, I'm talking to Amos, which I get most of my boards done by Amos, to do something around a 6.0, 19 and a half, so just a little bit wider, at 60 or 50 liters. But I want to thin. Yeah, like it's those dimensions are in my head, and I think I want something that's more of a thinner board to feel a little bit more connected to the foil. I don't want something that's too much thicker than 4 inches. I think it's just too much. So those are the specs that I have in my head. But if you're talking about the one board quiver, 1-to-1 volume to weight ratio, I think is great, narrow and long. That'll get you going. And if you're a downwinder, and you also paddle, I'm sure you have a downwinding board that you can use. Or if you subsurf, you can also use that to start out with. And there are some light days that I still go out on my downwinder board because what I'm liking more is a smaller parowing, not having to have a big parowing in my head and my hands to get up. And then once you're up, you're totally overpowered because of that wind range. So sometimes, because I'm used to a downwinder board, it's fine.
Yeah. I'm on a 3-meter wing and a 3-meter parowing. That's all I ride.
Yeah, that's perfect. I mean, that's where it shines. Like in strong winds, like to go out in 12 knots on a parowing, you're gonna swear that thing for the whole session. So the bigger parowings, like the 5 meters, I think they're more geared towards the bigger riders.
Oh,
so
bigger riders, yeah.
Yeah, I don't like I've ridden the 5.5 and it's a big parowing. And I've ridden it in 10 knots, 12 knots, but you start running into some issues when you're like jibing and there's no wind to keep it up, and you're jibing, you're going downwind, that apparent wind just goes to nothing and the thing just kind of falls onto your head. Like you just wear the parowing and you're like, okay. So I think the bigger parowings for the bigger guys, and anything over 15, 18 knots, you're going to start to have fun.
I find the same thing though. Like I'm fortunate to be in a spot that's quite windy all winter, but 6 meters and 5-meter wings, even they do get quite big and heavy and cumbersome when flipping and turning around. And So if you're fortunate enough to get some good wind, then that's definitely something. What were your initial thoughts about, because I know foil choices, everybody is going to pick a different foil based for what they're looking at, but what about initial safety concerns or initial, any kind of thoughts in that area?
Yeah, look, the parowing it's something that it'll allow you to put yourself in a great position to do downwinders in spots that, for you to get to those spots without the parowing, it might take a little bit more skill. So if you're on a paddle, you have to kind of work a little bit to get 2 kilometers offshore, 3 kilometers offshore, whatever, to start getting into the high performance areas where the wind's pumping, the bumps are pumping, no flat spots or anything. So if you're a beginner and you're putting yourself in those kind of places without the appropriate understanding of the risks, I think that could be a concern. 3 kilometers offshore, you need to have a life vest on. And, full disclosure here, like a lot of the videos, I'm not wearing a life vest, but I'm doing shore runs. Like I'm literally 500 meters from shore, telling the drone pilot to get shots from the land out. So it, has that feeling that you're out there, but I'm not. I'm like 500 meters from shore. If I'm doing anything in open ocean down the coast or anything over 10 kilometer downwinder, I have a life vest on, and we have to kind of try to set an example about it, because we had a very close call here where 2 downwinder, probably one of the 2 best downwinder guys here in Melbourne, they were riding together and they crashed, and the board kind of, the foil just picked up and kind of hit the guy in the head, and he got knocked out. So if he was riding alone, like, what do you do if you don't have a life vest? You're in pretty big trouble. And even then, with someone with him, he, if you don't have any means to communicate to shore, how do you get out of that situation? So they always ride with a phone. I think that's always important to have a waterproof case if you're doing these downwinders. And I have this one. I just separated some gear so you guys can see. Oh, I have no affiliation with anything, but this is just like the cheapest one I found, and it works pretty well. And I just have it like in my wetsuit, around the neck in my wetsuit. And if I'm doing a long run, I'll share my locations with my partner. I'll share my location with a group of downwinder guys that we have here. So everybody knows that you're out there, and they, you track your runs and make sure that you get to shore. Like those kind of provisions, if you're a beginner to the sport, you might not know how important they actually are. And having like some visibility, this is like just a rashi that we have.
That's true too.
Just a high vis, I had an experience on the wing that I was doing a downwinder, a very long one, like trying to cross the bay from the top to the bottom. And in the middle of the bay, the wind dropped and I couldn't get up. And it took me 3.5 hours to get to shore. And I was dehydrated. Like it was okay, but if I wasn't comfortable in that situation, I would have freaked out.
Yeah. Like that takes years to get to the point. I think it took me I was terrified of water before I started all this stuff, but it took me probably 6 or 7 years to sit in the Great Lakes. And I remember it because it was like 3 years ago or something. I was sitting there in 25 knots and like head high swell, and I was calm. And I was like, what's going on here? What happened? I'm either going to die real soon because you won't have that fear anymore, or I can finally start now to sit there, because that's one of the funnest things about wing foiling and stuff, is you can sit in a bay and just let the swell roll from under you and just sit there and relax, right? And be there with the elements and be out there, and it's super peaceful. So when that happened, then I was like, okay, so now you have to take precautions for your precautions that were there, but you don't think about them anymore because you feel safe. So that's one thing to note. And I know there's a few people that got caught with foils, and I know brands are coming out with some more foil proof wetsuits that'll be a bit more cut proof, all of that kind of thing. Cool. Yeah. Helmets obviously are a huge thing because you never know. So I always have like a very kind of shiny light green helmet that I wear. It still doesn't, it'll still be difficult to spot you, but at least you have something on your head just in case. Because the one thing with the parowing is the first time I went out is when I was winging, I fell, and obviously I let go of stuff, or with the parowing, I held onto it. So I fell off and my board kept running. And then
yes.
because it kept running, I didn't cross my arms in front of my face. And then the first time in like 4 years of winging, the board cracked me just below the nose.
Yeah.
Nose starts bleeding, and I was like, did I break it? Am I okay? Whatever. And then, but I'm still holding on to the parowing. So I was like, you can let it go. It's okay. It's not going to sink.
You can. Yeah, like, you can let it go. And Ensis did a good job with that little leash.
Amazing.
That you can connect it to.
Yeah.
I think if you don't have that, all you need to do as well is connect something to the brake lines. And if you just let go, it'll work. It'll also work. I don't wear a leash because to me, it's such a tangle hazard when I'm trying to depower and all that stuff. And honestly, if I'm in a bad situation, I let it go. It doesn't sink immediately. It'll take like at least 5-10 minutes to actually collect water and begin to sink where you can't recover it anymore. If you're in a shore break with waves, maybe that time is a little bit different. But I don't see it as something that you let go and it just sinks. So I just don't wear any leash. I just rather get rid of it if I need to. Haven't had that happen to me yet. But I did fall into the parowing, which was totally unexpected. I was riding and I don't know what happened. I think I just going too fast down a wave and I was trying to depower it. And I fell into it in the water and it just kind of wrapped around my face.
No way.
And with all the lines, and then I'm like, all right, this is how I die. Cool. And it was just a weird feeling to have something wrapped around your face. So like, you don't know what you don't know until you face it. So yeah, like get out with some safe gear. I have in my life vest, I carry the POB, so the person location beacon. So that's what you can activate if you're in really, a distressful point in your parawinging journey that you're like, okay, I need to get a chopper here. I'm not going to get out of this. It'll send the signal and, rescue can find you through GPS. It's a little beacon that I highly recommend everybody having it. And the other thing that I carry
What's the
now,
brand of that? Sorry. What is it?
Let me have a look.
Do you have one on you? Yeah, that'd be awesome to see
so
it.
This is the vest that I carry. So it's this, it's called Rescue Me from Ocean Signal. And I just have it in the vest, like it's connected there. It doesn't go anywhere. In the vest, I carry now this cat tourniquet as well.
So for folks just on audio, you can hop over to YouTube. Dan's just showing us his vest right now.
Yeah, so this just lives there, and it's kind of hard to get out. So I'm not going to go out without this. And I carry a cat tourniquet as well. There was a story of this guy in the gorge that he had a really silly fall where he kind of stalled his wing and fell backwards. And I think his tail caught his leg and ruptured an artery. Yeah. And he was just having a really bad time out there. And I think he bystanders were there, helped him out of the water, wrapped a tourniquet around his leg. So this is something small. Look, that's easy enough to carry. I have a whistle in here as well. So that's kind of all the stuff that I carry. There's water in the back, which is good for those long runs. But you can see how if you're a beginner, you're you don't need any of that. And you do have to invest a little bit in the vest, and that personal location beacon is around $300 Australian, something like that. So
all right,
so it's not crazy. That bad, but it's a bit of money, but it's your safety. Yeah. So
here
for sure,
here in Mexico, we're just doing shore runs. It might be, you could be 100 meters off or 200 meters off, nothing big. So we can stay close to shore. But even then, I wear a helmet and an impact all the time that floats me. But I can't imagine going out further. So it's nice to see kind of the precautions that you're taking that people might not see on videos or Instagram or elsewhere.
Yeah, and we try to do, like you said, in these videos, we have to be close to shore so the drone can actually get to us. And we film in certain angles that it looks kind of cinematic and all that stuff. But if we're doing runs that are significant, anything over 10Ks or even smaller, if it's 10Ks and I'm going out, have a life vest. It's not gonna hinder the performance, and you're just, making sure that you're safe.
What about pumping the thing? Like I've been trying that and practicing that, and it actually pumps. Like I would just pump vertical towards pulling towards me, and it actually does decent. The Enzis does that fairly well. I haven't tried the other two. I've seen a couple guys kind of do it as well. I know you have that wind range where it works.
Yeah.
But what's your experience with getting it in light wind or even heavy wind for these V1s?
Yeah. So the pumping, I think there's a way to pump that's very efficient with the parowing, because it's not like a wing that you could just like really be aggressive with it. I think there's a little slot in getting out of the water and in that foiling motion that is good for the pumping. The bigger the parowing, the easier it is to pump as well. The 5.5 in 12 knots, I can pump and it's just a truck, like it'll pull.
Oh, really?
And yeah, and the smaller the parowing, the less of that pull you have. It's more of a short snap of force being applied, and then it kind of, loses a little bit of power until the wind fills it up again. So the way I kind of pump and try to get up and get on foil is once I move up with the foil, when I'm going down, that's when I actually give the parowing a pump to produce that speed. And then I work my way up with the pump again. And when I'm at the highest point of the pump, I'll pull it again. And just having that motion happen in synchronicity where you're going down with speed and trying to get up with speed. So you can pump the parowing, but getting up on it, it's more of a leg pumping movement than pumping the parowing like you pump a wing. You see some people pumping the wing super aggressively, and that works well. But with the parowing, I think you're like 30% reliant, 40% reliant on the parowing. And the rest, you're kind of making that motion and gaining speed through the foil, through the board to actually get you higher. And then you can get up on foil. So it's a bit of a different technique, and I'm still exploring that as well. But I think it's a cautious pump on the parowing. Otherwise, you can lose control. You lose that power sometimes, and it depends on the conditions. If it's gusty, I just wait for a gust. I'm just patient with it. Like there's no reason to rush it. I think when I came into winging from kiting, that was something that I needed to learn, because if I wanted to kite, I would loop the kite and I'm out, right? It's instant every time. And with the wing, I would fall and I would get up quickly on the board, and I would get up quickly and I would try to get, like, just relax, right? You don't have to do it quickly. Yeah. You could wait for your moment. Like you mentioned, you could sit on your board, have a look back. You could see the gusts coming towards you, like in a day that, it's not really good wind. And then when you see it, you're like, all right, this is my opportunity. You get up, you try it. If you don't do it, just get back, wait for that moment again, and make sure that you still have the stamina to keep going.
What have you done for harness and harness line?
So harness, I'm not running a harness anymore. So I dropped it again because of the tangling kind of hazard that it causes, like the little hook in that harness in you. And I just put a little decline hook that actually flaps. So it's not like a solid piece of plastic. It has just a hook connected to like a leash. And if I'm prone on the board, it'll just move into the board, not scratch the board, that kind of stuff. And I would use it in the front of the belt. I don't have one with me right now, but I would put that in front of the belt. And then if I turn the belt around, that's where I'd stash it. But what I found was when I was riding and I'm doing turns and I have the parowing in my hand, sometimes that hook would get one of the parowing lines. And again, when you're riding, the last thing you want is things to get tangled. So I dropped the hook and I just got used to riding the parowing unhooked all the time. Even if I'm doing an upwinder, I'm happy with that feeling, and I kind of got used to the arm pump that it gives you, because it's physical. Like I think
it is.
People that get into it, they'll be like, oh, okay, this is actually it's like riding unhooked on a kite for the whole session, right? So I'm happy with that. And also the one thing that I'm changing now is my leash. So I had those coil leashes, the waist leash that are coiled from the start of the leash all the way to the board.
Mm-hmm.
though the lines get caught on that all the time. So I dropped that leash. I moved to an Avisa leash by Kaohi, and that worked well, but it still has a little bit of a section that has the coil, and it's the section that you connect to the waist. So it's, the section that you're going to get your lines wrapped into. And unfortunately, I still wrap my lines in that coil. So what I did was I removed the coil with the screws, and I just got a normal surfboard leash. And I'm using that with a carabiner straight onto the waist belt, and that's working really well.
I haven't had too many tangle issues yet. So I'm running a right engine kind of wingfoil harness. I got a monoline windsurfing stuff set up on my bar, which is working fine. And the right engine has a sliding hook on it, so that just goes side to side. I've been surprised how easy the Ensis one, because that's the only one that I've tried so far, how easy it gets out of the water, how easy it repowers, even if it falls. Like my initial time, I was in such light wind, so I didn't. But as soon as you have a decent breeze, that thing pops right out. So all those initial concerns that I had kind of went away. So far, I can wing up wind 6K with no harness, but I feel a lot more relaxed. But I'm more kiting with it, right? Like if you're going on a true run, you're finding that all those things gone for you has been the easiest transition.
Yeah. If you're doing a downwind run and you're doing the whole shuttle with a crew, just less is more. All I want to use the parowing for is to get up, and I don't want to see it for the rest of the run. If I'm seeing it during the run, it means that something is not going the way I want it to go. So yeah, if you're doing, but I'm kind of changing a little bit my like, not because I am focusing on it, just because of what the parowing is allowing me to do. I'm doing a lot less shuttling with people, which you have to figure out logistics and availability and all. I just go to a high performing spot and I do what you were saying. I'll go upwind, and I don't even do like 5Ks. I'll go 2 or 4 tacks upwind, and I'll get the best part of that section where the bumps are the highest and it's like shallow water and all, where the bumps pick up. And I just session that area. And I'm finding that, well, if I used to do like in the downwinders here in the bay, like let's say in a 10-kilometer run, there are little sections that are high performing sections that if you know where they are, for whatever reason, there's a sandbank or whatever, and the bumps get really good there. We would go on a downwinder, we would try to aim for that section, ride it, but you keep going, right, with the paddle. But with the parowing now, like you just go to the high performing spot that you love to aim for in the downwind run, and you just do that.
Right, actually. Just keep lapping it. That's true.
Just keep lapping it. 100%. So that's why I'm not wearing like the belt that much anymore as well. If I go upwind, I'm doing like 300, 400 meter upwinds, let's say half a K. And then I'm going downwind. And yes, you can stow it in the belt, but when you put it into the belt, if you don't really take care of how you're packing it, it can, when you take it out, be like a spaghetti. And there are ways for you to do that improve that, but it's not bulletproof. It's not like 100%, that you're going to get it out and it's going to be nice for you to redeploy. So I just forget about it. I'm like, if I'm going to spend 20 seconds doing that properly, it makes sense for a 10-kilometer run. But if I'm spending 20 seconds putting that thing in the bag, in a little belt properly for a run that's going to take, I don't know, a minute, I don't know. Yeah. I don't think it's worth it. So then I just keep it in my hand, and you kind of get used to it as well. And I think if it's not impeding your turns, it's fine. If it's getting in the way and you feel like, go ahead. Sorry.
What did it take you a little bit of time to get used to kind of pulling in the lines and depowering? Like, do you just run straight downwind depower? Do you pull one of the lines? Like, what was your experience with that? Yeah,
it definitely took me a little bit of time. And the first few times that I did it, it was just a mess. Like I would do it too fast in a rush, and I would just want to get rid of it as fast as I could. Because if you're downwinding, there's a lot for you to think about. Like you have to obviously stay on foil for those 20 seconds, half a minute, whatever it is, if it's taking a while. So it took me a little bit to get used to it. I practice on shore to try to get a good technique. And what I do today is, so let's go from the start, right? So if you're getting into a bump, I find that brushing off a little speed before you actually get into the bump is good. Like you don't fang it into a bump, because when you're downwinding, if you're let's say if you're a lot faster than the bumps, you put yourself in a position where you have to slow down and then work your way backwards to get back into it.
Yeah,
and you can lose. You lose a little bit the flow with the speed of the bump. So I try to match my speed to the bumps initially, and then like you're towing, get to a bump in a position that you're going to ride it down, but not all the way down, right? You want to be able to release that energy in the parowing. I grab all the lines from the rear lines first, all the way to the canopy. And by then, as soon as I do that, I'm already turning. I don't want to get to the low trough, right? I don't want to get to that spot, because you put yourself in a little bit of a tricky place there. And by then, if I'm tucking it in, then I go straight to putting the bar under my armpit, and I'm grabbing the lines with my left. I'll go to the back side of the parowing, and I'll grab the canopy, and I'll grab all the lines from the back. So then I have all the lines in my other hand, and I try to feed the rest of the parowing into that little package. And then I stow, and then if I redeploy, instead of trying to like chuck it up in the air and like hope for the best, I just open it up and I let it sit there going downwind, so you don't activate it. Because if you go, crosswind, it'll pick up wind and it'll power up. I just let it sit for a while. Sometimes it just untangles. It kind of starts to like twist, a little twist in the line. And then when I feel it's good, and the good thing about some of the parowings like the Ences and the Flow, they have that leading edge, which is a different color, which helps a lot.
True.
It helps so much. The BRM is great, but I would always look at my hand like I have this ball of white cloth. Where is the leading edge? So when I see that the leading edge is kind of in a good position, then I start angling upwind, and then it just catches air and like it goes up pretty easily. But it takes a little bit of time. So all of those things are worthwhile doing if you're doing a downwind run. If I'm in waves or something like that, I just hold on to it.
Now, holding on to it, that in itself as well is another skill, because when I started, I would just hold on to the lines and I wouldn't hold on to enough of the material, and I found it would start to twirl, and then you're into like we're into a mega loop, obviously, when it or a down loop when it comes out, right? You're like, all right, bud. But what did you find with that? Do you pull further on it? So you grab? Did you develop a technique that works the best for you?
There's two things there. There's one, where you're running the lines first. So if you grab from the rear lines, you're going to end up in the trailing edge of the parowing.
Yes. Yeah.
If you depower it and you grab from the top down, you end up in the leading edge. So regardless of how you do it, if you're grabbing it from the back, I like to, once you have it in your hand, you can grab the leading edge and just put it under your thumb. That helps me heaps, because it kind of inhibits the parowing from catching a little bit of air, wanting to fly, wanting to catch power. You kind of like break where it like fills up with air. So that helps. Doing a little bit of a pack down, like if you grab it, just get the air out and then hold it. That also helps, because you're bunching it up into a smaller package, and then air doesn't get into it, so it doesn't really want to fly. Good point. But yeah, with riding the lines up or down, it's hard, because it's really hard to get all the lines starting from the leading edge. You really have to just have it fall to do that. Sometimes it happens because you're going down, it just falls and you catch it. But normally I ride my lines all the way from the back. You can also just grab the front lines, which is something that Greg, actually, this is worth mentioning. Greg, he launched so many good videos when he launched the BRM that are on his website on how to depower, like just handling, stuff like that. That's so helpful. And he has something that's called the surf depower, where he just grabs the front lines. And when you do that, you're 100% sure that what you have in your hand is the leading edge. you're not grabbing any other lines. But I tried that a few times. It is a little bit more prone to tangling with your gear, like your hook and your coils and all that stuff. That's why I kind of scrapped using those things. And if you're riding for a very long wave for a long time, like you said, things start to happen with the lines, and when you want to redeploy it, it's not really there. So I personally, I like having all my lines in my hand. I stretch it out, and I just balance myself with it. You know, if I'm doing turns, I just kind of have it as if I had a paddle in my hand, and I keep those lines tension. That helps a lot.
So we've talked safety, getting up with it. Do you have them in front of you right now? All 3 parowings?
I can grab them. I've got the flow.
Yeah,
this is the 3 meter.
We can give a quick show and tell. So they're going with different color leading edge, trailing edge, and then lines for the bar as well.
Yeah, so these color-coded lines are a godsend for you to untangle. If you get into a really bad tangle, and I think you know what I mean when you get the lines wrapped around the back of the kite.
Yeah, I've had that before. Yeah.
Yeah, it really helps for you to know what's the leading edge, what you're trying to chase. So this is really good. What else? I mean, there's nothing really apart from the color coding and that leading edge. I think that's super helpful. Ensis has that as well. BRM is just a white canopy. It makes it a little bit harder. And I think the other thing that the Ensis did that was super smart, both the BRM and the Flow, the bar, they have these webbings, like these little Velcro straps. And yeah, you have the Ensis with you. If you pull that out, you'll notice that the bar has a little bit of a catch there, right? So if the lines get tangled, and sometimes they do, they can snag in that little loop. But what Ensis did was they integrated the bar and the lines where the end of the bar has a little bit of a curvature.
Exactly.
Right there. So if the lines get snatched around that, they'll just run off that. And that's really smart. That was really good. It helps with when you're redeploying, and sometimes one line is in the wrong position and you want to like just grab that line and sneak it out of there and keep going. Sometimes it gets caught in those little Velcro webbings there. And the Ensis is really good that way. It just allows those lines to run off the bar. So that's something that I think was really smart from them. Yeah.
Very, very smart. They have a nice little bag too. Like I like this little, it's pretty nice and clean and easy. And yeah, it's not bad.
Do you know what I have here? I have some, this feels like a show and tell session.
Yeah, a little show and tell, yeah.
So this is just like a regular kite bag, right? And this has a 7 meter kite in, and this is a 4 meter flow. Just the form factor of that. Like you can fit 3 of these in that space. So for traveling with a parowing is so easy. Like you can chuck that in a board bag, like a whole quiver, 3 sizes. And I wouldn't travel with anything else as well. Like it makes it so easy for you to, like if you have a little hatchback as well, you know, have a big car, like all those things, like it's not having to pump, like getting into the beach. The way I go out is I just put it in my belt if I have a belt, or I just chuck it under my rashi if I'm not using a belt. I just paddle out and I launch it in the water, depending on the wind. If it's a crosswind, I start from the land, but normally we get onshore and then I just paddle out a little bit and just chuck it in the air. Like all those things, not having to pump something is so nice. It's a small thing, but it's good.
Yeah, it definitely is. Have you encountered shore break or any of that other stuff? Oh, just here, one second. I think I got my neighbor wanting in here. What do we got here?
Ooh.
Oh, we got some good Mexican food for later.
Nice.
Yes. I think I'm getting spoiled with all the different flavors that we have here.
I'm a sucker for Mexican food.
Yeah, it's good stuff, man. Sorry, so we're gonna cut, but shore break. Any kind of encountering that? Because at my local launch here, I just it's super nice to just body drag over the reef and then you're out. But
Yeah,
what is it
there's
like for, do you
look,
body
even in
drag
the
over it?
bay,
Do you stow it? Do you kind of,
so a shore break for us in the bay is onshore winds, right? It just makes it really hard to get out. And if I am getting out in a certain spot that's onshore, I do exactly what I just told you. I stow it in my belt. I make it through that shore break with my board. Once I'm out, I'll launch it and I'll just give, an appropriate distance from the shore so I can get up and I'm not going to get bogged down in the shore break again. In waves, and we've experienced this already in the coast here, if you get caught in a big wave, and I had like 3 sets come past once and I couldn't get out of there because unlike the wing, right? So you fall and you can grab the wing quickly and you can get out of that critical spot. Launching the parowing takes a little bit of time, especially if it's in the water. And in a wave situation, if you get dragged by a wave and you get tumbled into the wave, the parowing is not going to be in a good condition. You're going to have to untangle and all this stuff. So it is very tricky to be riding in a high performing wave spot. Because if you get caught on the inside, you're going to get smoked for a little bit until you have enough of a break to get out of there. So what I think about doing is just, if I am in that situation, I don't try to relaunch. All I try to do is put the parowing in on top of my board and paddle out of that critical section, because chances are you're going to get another one in the head and then it's just a mess. If you get 3 waves with the parowing and you're tumbling in it, you're probably going to have to go to shore, untangle, reset, and get out there again. So waves is tricky, but I also kind of change where I ride. Like if I am on a wave and it's a big enough wave, you could always ride that shoulder and not be in the whitewash, because if you get in the whitewash, your foil is not going to work well either. So depending on your spot, I don't know. The spots that we have here, when it gets big, and I just tend to ride a different part of the wave, so I'm not in that critical area. Getting out in wave situations, I never have it deployed before I get out. I'd like to deploy it out in the water where I'm in a safe spot.
I haven't been in anything too crazy yet. Maybe shoulder, kind of high swell, and then there's no shore break to get out. So it is nice to be able to kind of body drag out in those situations, but I haven't been down to the beach yet to see what that could be interesting. Definitely. Is there anything else that you think people should know or would like to know about kind of getting into it?
Getting into it, I think like anything, it will take some time. If you don't come with a winging background or a kiting background, it's a lot to learn. It's a lot to take in. I think para-winging will take off a lot with wingers. Like 2025, I'm sure that 30% of people who wing will own one para-wing by the end of this year. I guarantee you everybody will have at least one in their quiver. And I think the next year that number might double. It's the best way for people who wing to get into downwinding. And a lot of people do that on the wing. They flag their wing and they want to surf. So you could do that with a very good understanding on how to get up and all that balance, all that stuff's kind of sorted. You know how to do that. So you're just changing the medium. And I think that's going to be great. So if you're coming from that background, you can go into it with a lot of confidence that you're going to have fun and you're going to be able to progress and get up and experience it quickly. If you're coming from a kiting background, I think you probably have a little bit less advantage in that regard, because you still have to learn that balance on the board, that initial clunkiness of winging. You have to get over that. So you probably have to start with a bigger board and go through that route. Wingers, get whatever you're riding on the wing, whatever foil setup, whatever board, just buy a parawing and you're good. You don't have to buy a downwinding board, a paddle, learn how to paddle. All those things take time and they take money as well. Downwinding boards are expensive, paddles are expensive. They're $600 for a good one. And I'm like, God,
yeah,
okay.
And your whole travel bag setup changes. If I'm going to sell, because I'll have my day bag plus my travel bags, and I got to sell 2 board bags, and then get 2 more plus a new board. It's oh goodness, this is it's a big changeover investment if I want to get a 1 quiver board that I can travel with. that is
100%.
a little bit longer, a little narrower, that is still fun and not too long for winging, and like all of those kind of questions I'm running through. And because I don't want to travel with, but then you end up in windsurf land, right? With two
It's
boards
100%.
and 6 masts and 7 sails, like I always do.
A
So
mast.
it's like,
Oh my God, I didn't get into that. Like that would have been tough back in the day to travel with masts.
it's fun. It's a
Yeah.
marriage. I say kiting is, I mean, never mind. But anyways, it is, you got to work at it. You got to definitely put in your time. And I am looking forward to windsurfing. It's been a while, but
Yep.
but that's cool. Okay, so we kind of gone over a lot of the basics then, and it's nice to know that all three, you give your thumbs up for all three. They're just unique in their design, and some people might like one more and might like the other one more. Do you think the V2s are going to come out with, because I'm sure there's a lot of people asking, some depower more so with kind of like a kite bar, or hooking in stuff with kind of a little bit more kite-like? Or do you think they're going to continue on this more trend towards simplicity, more downwind style?
Yeah, look, I think the evolution now will start to branch out a little bit. I see like a really good space for people who just wanted to like a parowing for downwinding, for the parowing to have the thinnest materials, the least amount of bridles, the smallest bar, but it doesn't really fly that well. You can't have all the aspects of a high performing parowing. It's going to be a compromise here and there. But if I'm just downwinding with it, I don't care how it flies upwind. I don't care
Yeah,
how
exactly.
stable it is. Like if I can get up and it'll shoot me into a bump, great, right? So there's like that area where it could be super thin, super light, super minimal. For people who want to go and do like a session, so you're going out at spot A and coming back to spot A, but you want to go upwind and come downwind. Possibly something that's a little bit more high aspect that'll have a better angle upwind will be more appropriate for that. But it's going to be a little bit more cumbersome to maybe stow because it's a bigger, longer, canopy there in front of you. And then look, I'm sure there will be racing. This is going to go into racing. Double skin, people going 50K an hour on this thing will happen pretty quickly. Freestyle, like you see what the guys from Menses are doing, like backflips, like they're probably doing mobs already and we don't even know about it, like handle passes and all that stuff.
Yeah.
It will happen. And I think there will be a different kind of parowing for that might have that hooking, unhooking thing, like a kite. I don't know.
Yeah.
So yeah, with regards to the depower, it's weird because you have to kind of put together two different products. Like it's a kite where you do depower and you release those rear lines to let the air go through the kite a little bit more. But then you have to think as a paraglider where the rear lines are the brakes, and you kind of ride the brakes a little bit for stability. So you can't just let go. And some of the parowings have that ability for you just to let go of the rear lines and it'll fly, right? And that's a certain characteristic that will make the parowing a certain shape and a certain size on the leading edge. It has to have maybe a little bit of a thicker leading edge for it to be able to do that. And if you don't have that, it'll have a little bit less stability, a little bit less depower, but better, stowing, better stashing like ability. So it'll be interesting what the brands come up with. I see definitely different disciplines like already having different parowings for and different features or needs.
Yeah, different applications based on where you're living, what you want to do. Yeah. Well, hey, thanks, man. It's been a fun little venture into parowing. Let's talk a bit about Foil Rat. What's your goal or mission behind your Instagram channel?
With the Instagram, I just didn't want to post my stuff in my personal Instagram because it's like people would be like, God, stop talking about foiling. So then I started the Foil Rat thing on Insta. But I think, starting the YouTube to me was like the different thing this year. And when I started doing SUP downwinding, I was like, I'm going to record every session from start to finish because I can't see anybody posting something that is like the journey, like really sucking at it first and going from there. And I filmed like my first 10 sessions and I never posted anything about it. Like I have all the files, I have all the videos. I just didn't have time. Like I was in part of my life that I didn't have time to do the editing and all that stuff. And then when the parowing came out, it was kind of the same problem. I was like, where is information about this? Where can I find more? Where can I learn? Who's doing it? And I found very little. So I just said, look, I'm going to start filming. I have my first session up on YouTube, like from my first session up to my, I don't know, 6th, 7th session. I was counting them. And then I just stopped and like, this is kind of what to expect those first few sessions. Really raw, like it's not glossy stuff. It's just like very little editing, 20-minute videos. God knows who's watching them, but I'm like, just put it out there because if you're learning, it's helpful. If there was something like that when I was learning, I would have watched it. So then I did that. And then later on, I had access to these different wings and parowings. I just wanted to experience them all. So I started posting a little bit more of those reviews. And I think the reviews, and we mentioned on this, like I don't like comparing them, and it's inevitable to compare them when you're doing a review. So I think it's again worthy saying that all these parowings are very capable. They all work. They have strengths and weaknesses. And I want to get away from the comparison because I don't want to say that one's better than the other. One brand's better. Like they all are freaking awesome. And again, props to all these brands developing it. I want to get into tutorials about like techniques, you know, how to do a tack, how to do a jibe, how to stow, like how I stow, like, and by doing that, of course you're giving out information, but I get so much information back as well. People send me stuff saying like, I'm trying this, like, check this out. This is working for me. So to me, it's a learning tool. I'm doing it to obviously share information, help people out, but I get so much out of it as well. People getting in touch, like, you know, this conversation right now. And I ultimately want to like start talking to brands. I have so much ideas of what to do with parowings. And I'm like, God, I want an outlet for it. So as a frustrated industrial designer, that's what, you know, my bachelor degree is in, and having very little a chance to work on that. I would love to get into that. So that's another thing on its own. But yeah, just learning, making sure that I have information and people have information, I think it's been awesome.
Oh, nice, man. Yeah. So it is at Foil Rat Vids on YouTube. And what's your Instagram handle?
Just Foil Rat.
Just Foil Rat. Cool. Nice little logo there. Who designed that little picture for you?
That was something I vectorized from an image online. I just traced over it and chucked some ears, and it's a freaky little rat.
Yeah, exactly. All right. Hey, man, thanks for coming on. Thanks for the chat. Hope you had a good time.
I did, man. Thanks again for the invite. And thanks for putting this information out there, man. I think 2025 is the year of the parowing.
That's it. Get one. Go get one. Doesn't matter what. All right, brother. We'll talk soon. And bye, everybody.